Welcome to Lesson 4, Understanding Ranking Factors for Google Business Profile. Now, if you've taken Local SEO Masterclass already, then you probably saw a similar video over there where I talk about roughly the top 20 ranking factors for GBP and organic SEO, and I also talk about some of the factors that don't matter. So I highly encourage you to check out that video. But in this video, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper on the ones that I consider the most important. And before we get started, I want to actually mention the things that aren't going to show up on this list. And that includes things like Google Business Profile updates, which are sometimes called posts. You'll hear me call them that a lot because it's changed recently. Posting photos to your Google Business Profile, Q&As. A lot of the stuff that people offer as a part of their Google Business Profile Management package, isn't that important? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Google rewards activity over time. This is primary Google data. We are serving it up to them. And so in the future lessons where we actually talk about Google Business Profile Management, I'm going to discuss why I think it's still important to do these things, but the amount of energy we should be putting towards them are much less. Unless you're only doing Google Business Profile Management, then of course you need to do that, but you'll probably hear my hot take of how I think Google Business Profile Management on its own is kind of a scam, but there are a couple exceptions for that, but we'll get into that later. So anyway, this is my favorite resource for local search ranking factors. It's put together by WhiteSpark, digital marketing agency out in Canada, run by Darren Shaw. Cool dude, writes to me on LinkedIn sometimes, so I like him. What is this document here? Well, if you get down to these people at the bottom, these are local SEO experts. They're either digital marketing agency owners, SEOs, or influencers. Seems like they've pretty much weeded out some of the crap. And what they did is they had them fill out this survey with, I believe it's 149 ranking factors. Let me find it here. There it is, 149 ranking factors, and they rated them from a score of 0 to 5 on all 149 ranking factors. And so if you go to this section, you will see all of the 149 factors, and you'll see geotag photos uploaded to GBP, which is a feature of some of the Google Business Profile like posting services out there. 2 people said it was important. Just so you know, those 2 people are jerks. They were lying to you. This is not important. Please don't geotag your photos. All right, so don't worry about that. Also notice that keywords in the GBP description are very far down there. Go to the other lesson where I talk about the stuff at the bottom of the page. Now, I want to jump back up to the top because, and we talk about this a lot more in the Local SEO Masterclass, but we have to look at the signals that actually matter for the Google Business Profile. And so notice that the most important thing, obviously, is the Google Business Profile itself. Those are GBP signals, but it's only 32% of the pie. In fact, the second most important thing for the Google Business Profile is on-page signals, which is the website. And then the next thing up right behind it is, I should say, review signals. We'll leave it at that. But if we look over here, these are the organic. So this is Map Pack. They're calling it Local Pack. Over here are organic search results, which again we talked about are the blue links. The number one thing is the on-page signals. That's the website. Number 2 are link signals, which we're going to find out is authority. We'll talk a lot about that in the Local SEO Masterclass. And then number 3, it's tied between behavioral and GBP signals. But if we flip that graph around, the third most important thing for organic SEO is the GBP, and the second most important thing for the Map Pack is the website. So probably not what you were thinking in your head, but I have seen this. I can validate this from anecdotal experience on my own. I have tried to rank like a website just by working on the Google Business Profile, and I've tried to rank in the Map Pack by working on the Google Business Profile. I've watched the website rise up, And similarly, I've worked solely on the website and I've watched the Google Business Profile go up. For example, if you watch my little YouTube series on Steal My Local SEO Strategy, I was trying to rank for SEO Bend, Oregon. Now this is a good example of personalization. If you go back onto that page and you look at some of the other signals, it's serving this up to me first because I visit this often. And so I actually pulled this up over here. It's still under mine, but it's not doing that personalization thing. And so if you look here, Then Designs is first in the map pack, and that's my lean and mean SEO agency. And we're also the first organic search result, which is really cool because there's this big people also ask block. And then you get the rest of the organic results. And so I literally did nothing to the Google Business Profile. I guess that's not true. I got a couple of reviews, but I did almost nothing to the Google Business Profile. I focused all my energy here, get ranking first for this kind of competitive keyword. And I went from not showing up in the map pack at all. I think I was like fifth, sixth, seventh in that range to showing up first. And it's not for the whole city. We're going to find out the different ranking factors here in a second. But the takeaway there is that the website influences the Google Business Profile. The Google Business Profile influences the website. This is why you should be keeping these things in sync and why you should be offering both if you're doing local SEO. Now, these signals change over time. Initially, the Google Business Profile wasn't important because it wasn't called the Google Business Profile. The first time they did these rankings was back in 2015. A lot's changed since then. On-page signals seem less important, but their importance is improving again. Reviews kind of leveled off, but we can assume that they're going to stay important. Backlinks are mattering less and less, but I think they still matter for organic SEO. Behavioral signals seem to be clicking up, and we could debate that based on what we know about Nav Boost now with clickstream data. And citations are going down. Personalization is something we can't control, so we could pretty much ignore it. But yeah, citation signals are going down. So you're going to see I'm kind of a citation hater, so we just don't talk a whole lot about citations in any of the stuff that I do. So now let's go back to the most important factors and let's dive a little bit deeper than we do in the other lesson. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I know these are two different lessons, so if you're just kind of following them in order, I want to make sure you see these things. The number one most important factor for the Google Business Profile, and again, caveat, this is just people reporting their anecdotal experience, but we don't have the search engine algorithm, even though it was leaked, right? That didn't include weight, so we really don't, and we don't know, what was important and what's not. So anyway, that was mostly just like, I don't know, it was like a week of a roller coaster and ended up not being that big a deal. But there was some information to glean from that, but it's mostly not going to change the way we do anything here. So let's follow the experts. Let's follow the experts, right? And this changed the game for me because it made it feel like I had something I could point to and be like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. I'm following this evidence, and this goes back to my days at Oregon State as a bio major. I felt better when I had a research paper to follow, right? And so here it's like, this is kind of like a research paper. So anyway, the number one most important factor is the primary business category for the GBP. Now I know at this point we haven't looked at the back end of the GBP at all, so we're not going to do that yet. But if I look up, and just notice that now that we're in the center of Bend, I'm not showing up first, which is annoying. But we can assume that the business category that's being listed right here is the primary business category. That's not always true. That's not always true. But there's a good chance the dash is marketing agency. These guys are internet marketing service, That's what SEO is. And then if we click more, there's Then Designs showing up fifth. And look, my primary business category is actually website designer. And if we look at Oregon Web Solutions, Bend SEO, who's stuffing these keywords in there when they shouldn't, their primary business category, because it's the first one that shows up here, whoops, my head's on top of it, is internet marketing service. So, and we're going to talk about this tool here in a second when we talk about secondary categories. So, okay, so that's the primary business category. That's the one that's publicly visible, typically publicly visible on the profile. Now, on the category of categories, the additional GBP categories are number 7. And so one of the things we're going to do when we're initially optimizing our Google Business Profile is we're going to look for our competitors' secondary categories. And so if you look up, this is our first tool that we're mentioning, it's called Plepper, P-L-E-P-E-R. Just look it up in the Chrome store, click that little blue button right there, and you'll be able to install it. It doesn't really show up. I don't keep it pinned because you don't need to, but when you search stuff, and if you have any trouble getting this box to show up, which is in my head, you can type in maps.google.com. Let's just do that for you real quick here. Maps.google.com. All right, and I really like using Plepper in conjunction with Maps because you'll get all these extra results. So I just searched Plumbers Gresham and I changed my location there using a different Chrome extension. This one's called GS Location Changer. That's the one. So click on that, just add to Chrome. It makes it really easy to change your location. And so if you go to maps.google.com and you search something like plumbers in that area, what's really cool is Plepper will give you this list of all the secondary categories for the business. Now for something like plumber, it's pretty straightforward, right? They're a plumber. But for other industries, it could be helpful to get the other secondary categories there. And then as we scroll down on the left, we can actually look at competitors and say like, okay, what are your secondary categories? Okay, so Roto-Rooter is not just doing plumber, they're also contractor, drainage service, excavating contractor, repair service, water damage restoration service, and water jet cutting service, whatever the heck that means. One thing I will notice is, you'll see this with your clients, is service establishment is not something you can pick. It's just something that gets attributed to your business over time. But that's the advantage of Plepper. It helps us see what the secondary categories are that we want, which again is the 7th most important ranking factor. So we want to have not necessarily the most, but we want to have at least all of the ones we actually do. We definitely want to have those. Okay, now the second most important ranking factor is keywords in your GBP business title. Now, there's other lessons where I talk about following Google's rules. You want to make sure you're following Google's rules, and it is against the rules to just stuff keywords in your Google Business Profile name. So please don't do that. However, there are 3 situations where you can use it. Number 1 is if your legal name includes a keyword, of course, you can absolutely use that. If you have a DBA, which stands for doing business as, or something similar that allows you to do business with a new name that includes that keyword, of course, that is okay. Make sure you have the documents handy in case you ever need to prove that to Google. And then the last one, which is a little bit more debated, is if you always market your business as, the typical legal business name and some kind of tagline that has your keyword involved, as long as all of your marketing material has that name, you're probably okay. I've seen a lot of companies get away with that without filing for a DBA. For instance, if we looked up Bend Web Design right now and we scroll down, we'll see a company right here showing up in the map pack. That was first earlier today when I looked. Oh yeah, I'm using a different pin right now. But you'll see Then Can Designs, Bend Web Design, and SEO. You might be like, Sam, you're doing the thing you're telling me to not to. But if we click through to the website and we go up to the top left, what is that right there? Oh, it says Then Can Designs, Bend Web Design. And if we go down here, Then Can Designs, Bend Web Design. And pretty much every time I mention my business, I say Then Can Designs, Bend Web Design, and SEO. And the reason why I do that is because I want to include it in my Google Business Profile because I know it'll help me rank higher. Now the next step I could do is pay the damn $50 to get a DBA to change my business name, but also it's kind of clunky, so I don't know. I just don't feel like doing it. But I have seen people report this, and that brings up a different ranking factor, which is number 5, which is removal of spam listings through spam fighting. So if you are checking your SERPs and you see somebody doing something like this and you're like, I don't think that's legit, dude. Now, let's see if there's anybody else out here that's stuffing keywords. That's actually their name. Let's see, that's their name. I think that's their name. I know if I do SEO Bend, Oregon, there's one that I often challenge. These guys, Bend SEO is not part of their name. You can go to their website and you can see it's Oregon Web Solutions. All right, it's not Oregon Web Solutions, Bend SEO. Jerks. Anyway, all you can do, okay, so here's how you do it. You take their name and you search for it. That should trigger the Google Business, their individual Google Business Profile to show up. You click Suggest and Edit, change name or other details, and you change their name to what it actually is, and then that should fix the problem. The thing is, on their end, they're also going to get notified about it. So I've had a couple people try to dispute Then Can Designs, Then Web Design SEO, and I come right back at them and I say, actually, it's this, and you can include like evidence. And so I just include the logo, and I'm just like, hey, look, there it is right there in the logo. And so I'm not sure how these guys are winning, but I may or may not have reported them a couple of times. But anyway, that's supposed to be number 5 ranking factor. Another thing that you could report are incorrect hours. Hours are now a really important ranking factor. So if you were to, have a competitor that's ranking above you when you're closed because they're 24 hours and you're not, you can put 9 to 5 or whatever their hours are. That should trigger them to put their correct hours in there and be like, we've been caught. So I've actually helped a client go from second to first by doing that because somebody was using that hack. Don't do that hack for that very reason. Anyway, you're standing on false footing. Don't use shortcuts. All right, we're going to do stuff that's natural. We're not going to take any shortcuts unless, sometimes we might take some little shortcuts, but only if we feel like they'll last a long time, right? Anyway, number 3, this is really important. Number 3 and 4 are things we cannot control. It's the proximity of the address to the searcher and the physical address in the city. So these are really important because it's just good to know. And this is when it comes back to setting expectations for your clients, for your team, for yourself. Your GBP will not rank all over the city. There's nothing you can do about that. There's some belief that if you can get reviews all over the city, where people are mentioning their neighborhoods that they're in, then maybe you can get your pins to kind of spread out. Not your pins, but if you've ever seen like a GeoGrid ranking, you want to see a lot of green flags showing up. And so to get more green spread, reviews could help for that. We're going to see why here in a second. But I mean, just typically speaking, the first thing I tell a client is look, if you're trying to rank for the city next to you from your Google business profile, that's a lost cause. If you want to expand your reach in the city, we can probably do that over time. But our best bet is to build out a local landing page, which is something we talk about in the Local SEO Masterclass. So don't worry about that here. We're focused on the Google business profile. Now, the number 6, the number 8, the number 13, and the number 20 ranking factors all have to do with reviews. All right. And this specifically says, well, let me show you. High numerical Google ratings, so higher reviews, quantity of reviews in Google, a sustained influx of reviews over time rather than bursts, and then the last but not least is recency of reviews. I've really seen this one in particular really matter, especially against competition. The reason why I occasionally rank above a web design agency in my town that has a physical location is because I'm just getting reviews more often than them, even though they have 90 and I have 20. Okay, so again, sustained influx rather than burst, which means we're getting recent reviews, we're getting high quality reviews, we're also getting high ratings. Okay, so we really want to focus on that, and we're going to have a whole lesson on review coaching. That's what I recommend doing with our clients when we do Google business profile management. Now back to the list. We don't need to talk about that. We're going to talk about that forever. Okay, so we already talked about the additional categories. So you want to have a verified GBP. So we'll talk about the different ways to get verified. Typically, when you meet your client, they'll either be verified or they're stuck at the video verification step. And so if that's the case, we can help them through that. I have resources for that. Again, this is an address thing. We can't handle that. This is the first example of the website influencing the Google business profile. This is the keywords in the SEO title for the page that your Google business profile points to. Typically speaking, that's going to be your home page, but if you have multiple locations, then it's a location page, right? So it just depends on where your client's at. And so that's SEO title. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, take the Local SEO Masterclass. You'll get really good at that. Completeness of GBP. Now there's a little section on the back end of the GBP, which I guess I can finally pull up after all this time. I know you've just been like, come on, man, pull it up. All right, here we go. Here's the back end of the GBP. Obviously, we're in dark mode right now. See that? See that green circle of happiness? That means the GBP is complete. A lot of times right now, Google's showing this false yellow because you need to click through ads for ads, Google ads, and for Google Workspace. So after you do that, you'll also get the green circle of happiness, but try to get that. If there's anything hanging you up, the client doesn't want to set hours or they need to add photos of their projects, keep bugging them, be like, hey, I can't do the 12th most important ranking factor because I don't have this from you. I've already talked about 13. Having a dedicated page for each service is actually the most important organic ranking factor, so we'll talk about that there. This has to do with your website. Obviously, you want to have the pin in the right place. It's funny, like I laugh at this one every time, but I've had a client where their pin was just not in the right place, and actually tried to use driving directions to their place. I was like, oh, I set up their GBP so I can use that, and it took me to the wrong place. And I was like, I'm an idiot. Okay. 17 and 18 are also related to the website, and 19 is actually related to backlinks, which has to do with authority building, which we'll talk about in the local SEO masterclass. And so we've now covered the most important ranking factors for the Google Business Profile, and we even talked about kind of how to address those, and we will talk about those again as we're actually setting up the Google Business Profile. And I hope this was helpful. Again, notice that we did not talk about Google Business Profile updates. We did not talk about uploading photos regularly. We did not talk about doing Q&As. We didn't talk about stuffing keywords in the description or geotagging photos. Like, there's a lot of things that just aren't important that people offer as part of their Google Business Profile Management services. And honestly, most of the stuff we're looking at are things that we're going to do up front as part of our optimization, and then things we'll do as part of review coaching. A lot of that other stuff is towards the bottom, which is why Google Business Profile Management should be thought of in that way. It should be thought of like the add-on service to the rest of your SEO package. But we should also think about like what we're doing to the websites, helping us show up in the map pack, and that activity that we're giving the Google Business Profile over time could teach Google a little bit more about our website so they can help us show up higher for the blue links. Okay, so we've gone over a lot in Module 1. We got our mindset right for offering Google Business Profile services. We figured out what the heck it is and had some really cool case studies for how to use the GBP. We now know what the SERP is, Search Engine Result Page, and we know that the Google Business Profile is typically at the top underneath the ads, so 95% of scrollers are getting to that map pack, so we want to show up in the map pack if we can. And now in this module, we've learned how we can best get there as quickly as possible by focusing on the most important things. And I know at this point you're like, all right, now we're going to get our hands dirty, right? Now we're going to dig into the Google Business Profile. Well, first, I have to talk about Google Business Profile Management as a service. So I want to talk to you about why you should or why you shouldn't offer Google Business Profile Management services. Then we're going to talk about a really important tool called the Google Business Profile Agents. Please do not skip that lesson, because if you skip that lesson now, it's going to bite you in the rear later. So that's one of the most important lessons to do. And then we're going to actually talk about a lead generation process by using Google Business Profile optimizations to actually help get people down the sales pipeline. We won't learn how to do that yet, but I'm going to show you that process early on so that way you can kind of start to get the wheels greased a little bit, and then we'll actually start to dig into Google Business Profile setup. I promise you're only one module away. All right, so you made it through Module 1. It's time for Module 2. Let's get into it.